The opening scene of the film opens on a lab that was situated close to the Dragon Lake Forest. The scene in the lab features a female researcher working on a treatment of a disease. When a monster attacks and swallows a man alive, everyone becomes frightened as a result and begins to run everywhere. They had to halt this research as well. The Dragon Lake Forest is then portrayed in a setting when it has developed into a popular tourist destination. Two females visit this location to vlog about their experience and are among the few individuals visible here. Two brothers are also seen who have come to this area for hunting. They will be guided by a guard in the Dragon Lake Forest, but they don't like this guard because he was charging them extra for everything. They are told about a fabled beast by the guard, Kao here. He claims that only the fortunate will have the opportunity to view such creature. Actually, there wasn't any creature there, and he made up this tale to pique travelers' curiosity. As a result, they won't return because he demanded a large sum of money. The following morning, the brothers borrow firearms from Kao for hunting. On the opposite side, Kao's pal was leaving monster footprints all over the forest. Everyone will believe that a mythical creature dwells here. But the plot takes a turn, and a monster actually shows up. It strikes at him. The scene now shifts to the people who became bored from their prolonged walk. They are traveling far away when they discover the monster's footprints, except for Kao. Everyone who sees it believes the footprints are genuine. Then he texts his pal to thank him for leaving the monster's footsteps in such attractive fashion. In truth, those were the actual footprints. They are currently being demanded extra money by Kao for creating the image of this footprint. A professor was among them, and he came into the forest to learn about the new plant species. The professor estimates that the monster will weigh at least 20 tons after seeing its footprint. They are excited to see the monster after hearing that it will be nearly 5 feet tall. Moving on, the professor discovers a new plant species in the forest. He finds one of them unusual and attractive, but the plant then attacks the professor. This is the giant pitcher plant, and it has trapped the people in its vine. After hearing the professor's voice, Kao moves to save him. Professor Kao saves him before the giant pitcher plant eats him. Later, the two brothers use their gun to free everyone from the plants. As the night approaches, Kao requests that they depart as soon as possible. We learn that there will be fog here in the evening, which is why they must cross the forest before the fog. He notices that her sister is missing, and then they hear his sister shouting. Now they are terrified to hear her yelling, but when they reach her while following her voice, they discover she wasn't shouting because of trouble, but she was showing her followers an egg while shouting. It was a larger egg than a normal egg. The egg in his sister's hand suddenly breaks, and a baby snake emerges from it, attacking his sister. Kao arrives just in time and drives the baby snake away while holding it. Then Dion's brother repeatedly shoots at the baby snake while other eggs are shown. When those eggs start breaking one by one, Dion's brother shoots at them repeatedly. It is the cause of the snake's deaths. Now that Dion's brother isn't stopping shooting, they take him away forcibly. Moving forward, they come across a massive python snake, and upon seeing it, Dion's brother begins shooting it. The python grabs him and wraps itself around him. To save him, the other tourists must shoot at it, and as a result, the snake flees, leaving him behind. After it escapes from here, they move to the shore. The python attacks them again on the way, this time swallowing the professor's assistant. The professor feels bad, then he gets panicked and begins to cry when he sees this. He reaches for the shore with others while remaining in control of himself. They escaped while driving the boat, which was present. During this, the professor informs everyone that pythons can swim, but they did not come into this lake while chasing us, implying that a greater danger exists in this lake. Fearful of that danger, the python did not follow us, but it returned. There was a real danger in this lake, and it was a monster. The monster is shown wandering around their boat, but they have no idea about it. Their boat breaks down in the middle of the lake, and Dione stands up and starts looking around. Kao fixes the boat in some way. Because of the boat's sudden start, Dione falls into the water. We learn here that Dione does not know how to swim, so his brother must jump into the water to save him. Later, he saves his brother Dione, but the monster eats Dione's brother before he could come on the boat. That dangerous monster can be seen here, looking terrible and enormous in size. Everyone becomes terrified when they see it. While passing from their boat, the monster moves back into the water. Dione is saddened by all of this and begins to cry because he has lost his brother. After a while, they emerge from the lake, and the monster now chases after them. Kao devises an escape strategy, in which he will distract the monster and they will all flee to a nearby research laboratory. Later, while distracting the monster, Kao transports it to the other side, while the others move to the lab. Then there was a twist in the story and the monster is shown moving to that research lab. He is terrified when he sees the monster approaching and falls. Later, while moving near you, the monster throws Kao's jacket. He becomes depressed upon seeing it and begins to cry. Meanwhile, a lady miraculously saves them from the rain and takes them inside. She was the same lady researcher we saw at the beginning of the film. After a while, the monster moves inside, breaking through the wall and again chase them. While fleeing the monster, they arrive in a room. As they open the door to that room, Ko appears and takes them inside, rescuing them from the monster. He is overjoyed to see Ko alive and hugs him. Later, the researcher lady explains that a few years ago, she and I were working on developing a disease cure. During this time, the lab's chemical waste migrated into the lake, and as a result of this waste, a creature mutated into that monster. The lake has been harmed by chemical waste. After hearing all of this, the professor requests that they contact the police. The monster has broken the lab's radio, and there hasn't been any light in the lab since last night, so they can't contact anyone for assistance. Ko devises another scheme. In fact, the light was off due to a power line problem. Now, Ko and you will repair the power line wires, and Ko will stuck the monster in the lines. As a result, when the power is turned on, the monster will receive a 10,000 volt current. It will not bear it and will die immediately. According to the plan, Dione easily captures the monster and imprisons it in those wires. Meanwhile, Ko flips the switch, but the current is insufficient to reach that monster. The monster is successful in releasing itself. Ko was finding electrical fault that was causing no current to flow through those wires. While investigating the fault, Ko tells you that he does not demand high fees from people, because he wants to build a school for children with that amount so that the children can receive an education. While talking, Ko notices that flaw, so he points to Dione and asks him to take the monster from there. Then Dione hits a massive machine part into the monster's face. As a result, the monster becomes entangled in the wires once more as it approaches Dione. Seeing an opportunity, Ko requests to turn on the main switch, and as it does so, the monster is subjected to a high voltage current that it cannot withstand and dies on the spot. Ko is also holding those wires when he feels an electric shock and falls away. As he falls, he immediately faints. Seeing Ko in this state makes you depressed. She begins to cry and tries to wake up Ko, but it is futile because he is not awake. She reminds Ko of his school, which he wants to start for the kids, and it was his dream. After a short time, he awakens and asks, while smiling, "Will you help me open the school?" He responds angrily, but she then says yes and hugs him. They were all returning from there after that, but the researcher lady refused to leave, because she still had some work to finish while staying here. When they all left, the researcher is shown in the lab taking lenses out of her eyes. Her eyes were like that monster's eyes. Meanwhile, another monster approaches that lady, and she places a hand on its face. The monster was also not harming her, and it appears that they were attempting to communicate. Here we learn about the mutation affects both humans and animals. Because of the mutation, a bond is formed between them, which is how they communicated. This is the final scene of the movie.